Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's Friday, the 12th of January. What a hectic day yesterday. Yeah, it's 12th. Yeah, we were busy to say the least. I told you guys that we had one generator we had to go take a look at, but I had posted on some of the local Facebook groups. I had posted on one that was central to our area. And then we had some friends of ours. I also posted on my personal Facebook, and the business Facebook. That we were open. We were be running on generator, but we were open, and the phone worked, the internet worked, so we could be there to work on stuff, and we were. When I got down to the shop, Claude had got the porta cable fired up, and that will run the shop to a certain extent. But it does not like our big Ingersoll Ram. I've got 3 of them. Air compressors. Anybody need an air compressor? I got 3 of them. And one's brand new, and the other one I bought from a guy because he ran a paint shop, and he had it for a week, and he said it was little smidgens of oil was coming through the line, causing a smear with the paint, trying to paint cars. Yeah, I'll take it, especially for the price, but because I always buy a backup to the backup, right? But we knew we had to go look at one yesterday morning, and when I got down there's a big one sitting in the middle of the shop floor, and I said, "Where'd that one come from?" I said, "Well, one of our friends, Wayne, got a hold of us, stopped at my house last night at 5 o'clock and said, I got to have my generator to water my cows, and he didn't know if the shop being without power, if we weren't doing any work." And Claude told him, "No, just you and I run it down to the shop. We'll drop it off there, and then Eric and I'll get it running in the morning and get it back." But I did a shout out to him yesterday morning because I had 2 spare generators, okay? And when I say 2 spare, they're not spare technically. One we use for the welding. If we need it, we throw it in the back of the truck, start it up, plug the welder into it. It's a 55, and then I've got a 35. And the 35 we take if we're just going to use like 1/2-inch electric drills and stuff like that, because it doesn't require a lot of power. But I had just serviced those 2 as well in the last 2 months, 3 months, so I knew that they were solid. So I give a shout out back to them, to his wife, and said, "Michelle, I've got the 3500 running on the back of my truck right now. I can run that up to you if you need it to water cows." She said, "Well, I think we're good. If somebody else is coming." I said, "All right, because we're still working on yours. Do you want it at the house, barn, where do you want it?" So she said at the house. So we get his done, but we want to wait and give it some time to make sure it's not leaking around the carburetor bowl, because for some reason the gasket got crimped on it. That's what was causing it to leak, and the carburetors are full of crap, rust, everything else. But we got him going, and we got a call over with the guy that had the snowblower, and He had a little 3500 that, oh God, the thing was old. And he couldn't get that to run. Said it was running good and then it just quit. It's like a stove blower. So I told him, I said, I got the 3500 sitting around the back of my truck. We will take this down, plug you in, and you can run off mine while I'm working on yours. And they're like, nope, we're good. We got wood heat. You know, we're toughing it out. So I thought I'd show you some of the trees that were down, how the wind, the sheer force of it just uprooted them and everything. So we'll go to that and then we'll come back. All right.
Turn around and go slow up by them other ones that I'll give you some photos, video. Some limbs. Yeah, mainly it's pines that are uprooting.
Yeah, pines and shallow roots. And then big roots that go up a long way.
Give you some.
So as you can see, quite a bit, the trees were just uprooted. And the wind came from the southeast. And what Nemo was saying early on was they had an issue with the wind. And I'm like, we always have issues with wind, right? But they were saying that we normally get the wind from a different direction. So the trees tend to lean and they'll anchor themselves more to one side to where we get a lot of the wind versus the other. This storm came in and was coming in from a different angle on the weak side of trees. Thus, from what they're telling us, was causing the uprooting of trees versus shearing and falling over. That these were actually just ripping them right out of the ground because it didn't have a good root solid system on that side of the tree. But either way, we ended up getting power last night. Oh, what time was it? Around 6. Give a good clean shout out to all the guys with NIMO and all the crews that came in. You know, you guys, we owe you a big one. I mean, we can bitch and complain all we want about our power bills, right? But when the power's out, I mean, just here at the house, I think it was like $124 worth of fuel for 2 days. And my average light bill here is a little over $100 for the month. We got her cheap. But anyhow, back to what we were doing yesterday. And that was, we Ended up getting the one fixed for Wayne. And we decided to let that sit at the shop because neither one of them were home at the time. And run up and check on the one that the gal had gotten hold of me the night before. Went up there, and good thing is that it wasn't their primary. They already had a small one running. This one here was given to them, and they tried getting it running, but they couldn't. And the funny thing is, the one that they could get running is one that they had bought during the original ice storm back in the 90s. And that thing was still going great. And we had just serviced that anyways here this summer for them. The big one we had serviced, but they said the problem is that their kid got into it, trying to get it to run or something, and ended up leaving the fuel on in the carburetor, and we popped the bowl off, and that was very full of rust and gunk. And so we decided, well, we need to get over there and check on the one on just the other side there, the older couple. So we got over there and looked at theirs. Theirs was a 35. I offered to have them take mine on the back of the truck, replace it. And they said they were good. So we threw theirs in the back of the truck. Headed back to the shop. I got theirs running. It ended up being, and I don't know who created these things and why, but the low shutdown sensors, I mean, they're great as far as being idiot proof of if you never check the oil in your generator. In the olden days, we didn't have stuff like that. You got into a habit of, if you were going to run a generator for extended periods, you first, before you even give it a pull, you check the oil. And then when it came time to put another 5 gallons of fuel in it, you shut it off, let it cool down a little bit, you check the oil, right? Added 5 more gallons of fuel, fired it back up, and you did it that way. Most people now, and it's not a safe way, but most people now won't even, idle their machine down. They just keep adding gas. And if the generator quits working eventually, it's because the low oil sensor light. It's low oil sensor. It's telling them, you didn't check the oil. The oil's getting low. You need to get some more oil in this. Especially the older ones. And when I say older ones, I mean 10, 12 years old. You're going to burn a little bit of oil as she gets older. So, to get the customer going faster, all I did was I unplugged the low oil sensor and it fired right up. We did compression on it. We did spark. I wasn't getting spark. And I was trying to figure out, why am I not getting spark? So, on generators, we always unplug the low oil sensor. And if it fires right up, we know it's there. And we always check to see if there's oil in any unit before we fire it up. Because we've seen it where there has been little to no oil in a machine. And in some cases, people not even knowing where or how to add oil to their generator. But the oil looked good. The air cleaner looked good. Spark plug was new. He had put that in. So I unplugged the oil sensor, fired right up, and I said, let's get this one back to them. And we explained to them, because the way the oil sensor is on most of these units is you install it from the inside out. All right, it's a threaded rod, and from the inside case you have to tear everything apart to get to splitting that case. All right, and then it comes from the inside out, and then you put a nut on this side and with the one wire coming out. And as I explained to him, can we fix that oil sensor? Yes. Will the cost of fixing that oil sensor exceed the cost of the actual generator? Because the generator was over 30 years old. And I said, do you check the oil on this on a regular basis? Because it was topped off. It was perfect. And he said, yeah, I check it all the time. I said, well, what I'm going to suggest to you is just don't even worry about it. If you're checking the oil regularly and keeping track of it, you'll be fine. This will last you another 10 years. But if you want us to replace that sensor, we will replace that sensor. And he's like, no. He said, you guys are so honest. I said, well, that's what got us to here is honesty. And like I told you, on yesterday's video, so far everything we were doing was free. We were trying to get our community back up and going, the ones that were down. Because cold temperatures had come in, and now we're in the 20s. The night before, it was running 42 to 45, so it wasn't so bad. If when the power went out at 10:30, the house stayed warm until, it was in the 40s the day before, But Wednesday night into Thursday dropped way down in the 20s. And people that didn't have generators to run their furnaces were starting to get cold. And, they had, different places you could go to get warm, because they had like the fire hall. They were open because they had a standby generator going. A couple other places were mentioned. But we had posted on those boards too, Yesterday, the night before, was I will be available all day Thursday to help anybody that has any problems with their generator. And I made clear we are only tackling the engine side, keep it running. We're not tackling the power side. So if you're having problem with the electrical side, we can't help you at this time. Straight up honesty, because you can chase your tail on that one. Girls. So we got that one dropped off. We went back, got the trailer, put Wayne's on the trailer because that thing was huge. Took that up, used his tractor to take it off the trailer, and I put it into his garage. Took the trailer up to the gal that had the big generator, loaded that on, brought that back to the shop. And by that time, we're 1:30, quarter to 2, and we had other people stopping in, getting stuff. They give me a shout out on Facebook that they needed this part or that part for the generator. And I would just leave it on the front seat of one of the work trucks that were in the yard if we weren't there. Just take it, get yourself running, we'll catch up later. That's because I trust 95% of the people around here. There's a couple that aren't so trustworthy, but I'm blessed to be in a community that people are honest and they take care of one another. All right. Now we've got 2 more storms coming. Last night we had winds, we had snow, and a little farther south they ended up getting, I think it was 6 or 8 inches. But those guys love it up there. They're in the ski resort snowmobiling sector, and it's called Tug Hill. So they love it up there. They can have all they want. But for today, they're forecasting more snow. And then going into the weekend, anywhere upwards to 12 inches. But they're also saying for Saturday, possible freezing rain. And it's all I hate. Give me all the snow and the cold, but don't give me freezing rain. Freezing rain I hate it with a passion because it does so much damage. And then talking with Jason yesterday through the comments and stuff, he's up in Michigan and he lost power yesterday. And that's one of the storms that are headed our way. You know, if you haven't done maintenance on your generator and you don't even know if it runs, probably now is a good time to get it checked, right? If you're do it yourself or at home, you know, simply changing the oil, new plug, new air filter if it needs it, and just making sure that, you know, within the first 2 pulls that thing is up and running. And let it run for a little while, all right? And make sure you're using premium and not the ethanol fuel. There are some stabilizers out there that will help with it. But it's better just to get to 91 or better. And I don't want you to put a lot of fuel in that generator. And here's why. Because the more fuel you put in it, the longer it's going to sit, right? And like last night, I knew that I probably had about another 40 minutes of runtime on my generator when Claude called me and said we had the power back on. So instead of going out and adding another 5 gallons of fuel to it, I just went out and shut the fuel off to the carburetor. Threw the big main disconnect for the generator, unplugged it, clicked the switch to the off position on the generator for the electrical part. I let the generator die on its own. It ran out of fuel, and it cleaned the carburetor right out completely. That's why we had that running like that, because that's the way I had left it. I had shut the fuel off and let it run itself out. And if I need it for these next 2 storms that come in, I'll add the fuel in then, but not until then. You know, if you got a storm coming and stuff like that, just set fresh cans of fuel next to the generator, you know, a couple of days ahead. If you don't use it and your power doesn't go out, I would suggest dump it into your truck. I mean, I got a 4-wheeler here, I got side-by-sides that we use on a regular basis, but we'll use up the extra gas anyways down to the shop working on people's equipment, gas-powered equipment, with draining tanks and putting in fresh. So my word to all of you out there is don't keep putting it off, because when you need it, you want it to run 100%. 100%. And if you're having a problem trying to start it and it won't start, you can't get any fire to the plug, before you go tearing the coil and everything else all apart, locate the low oil sensor, and it will be located on the block. And there's usually 1 wire comes out from it. It's like a little threaded rod sticking out with 1 wire, and it goes to a little whip. Unplug that. And if it starts right up, there's your culprit. And you know, if it's under warranty, have them put a new one in on their dime. If it's not, as long as you're good about checking the oil, you should be all right. So what also took place yesterday that was pretty neat was it got around that I was lending out my 2 spares. You know, when I was doing pickup, I drop off mine, get theirs fixed, swap it out, go to the next one. Trying to keep everybody going, okay? And we had numerous people that got a hold of us yesterday. One guy stopped in, a really good customer. He's a retired sheriff. And he's like, I've got 2 generators. They're older ones. But I've updated in the last couple of years to a standby. If those other 2 generators are something that you could take and get running and give it to people that need it, or have it for backups to lend out, you can have it. And he wasn't the only one. There were numerous people. So we've got some generators coming our way today. We got to pick up some, and then we got some more coming our way. And we're going to do exactly that. We're going to go through, and I don't care if it's 8 generators. We will get them running and ready to roll. And I'm going to keep probably 2 of the better ones for spares. So I've got 4 to lend out if need be. And then the other ones I'm going to give to people that don't have a generator that really could use it. So on that note, you guys have a great Friday. I'll probably have a video out tomorrow for you as long as the power stays on. For the series on becoming a better man, mentor, and becoming confident and stuff, if you guys can share that with some of the young people out there, I think they can connect with it, and I think we can get them back on track, to get their lives back and take control of their lives. Because I'm seeing a lot of them they checked out during COVID and they haven't checked back in. And we need more men. Good men with good moral characters. And the biggest thing is nobody's teaching it anymore. So I'm trying to do it in a series. I've got 2 parts so far. I'm going to keep going with that series. But I need the young guys to really see it first to help them. So on that note, you guys have a great weekend. And for the weekdays, we'll catch you here tomorrow or Monday morning. All right. Thanks so much for watching.